Christina Bastian. 34-year-old Christina Bastian worked as an English teacher at Silverado High School in Apple Valley, California in 2015 and was well liked by her students and those in her community. In recent years, Christina had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and was working with doctors and mental health professionals to help manage her condition. She had been prescribed medication, which she had stopped in the months before she disappeared. Sources state that Christina came off her medication after counseling her doctor and began telling family and friends that God had healed her. When she first came off the medication, she seemed as though she was doing well. However, this slowly changed, and just days before she was last seen, Christina's mood and personality dramatically shifted. In late October of 2015, Christina began exhibiting bizarre behavior, telling her friends and family that someone had broken into her apartment and that someone was watching her and following her every move. Christina was inconsolable, despite her friends and family trying to reassure that everything was okay. In an attempt to make her feel safe, friends and family allowed her to stay with them for a few days, promising her that everything would be all right. However, Christina's behavior only worsened over the coming days, and the day before she disappeared, she drove from Apple Valley, California to Phoenix, Arizona for reasons that are unknown. According to Christina's mother, Cheryl, she received a phone call from her daughter telling her that she was in Phoenix. Reports indicate that after this, Christina took the SIM card out of her phone and then smashed the phone to bits. On the day before her disappearance, Christina also spoke to her brother-in-law and cryptically told him, "I don't want to be Christina Bastian anymore." This chilling statement was a premonition of what was to come, and Christina also told him that she wanted to disappear. By the next day, this premonition, if that's what it was, had come true, and Christina was nowhere to be found. On November 1st, 2015, Christina arrived at a friend's house in Apple Valley after the two agreed that Christina could stay the night. This wasn't unusual for Christina, and in the previous weeks, she'd been overly paranoid that someone had broken into her apartment and that someone was trying to get her. She brought with her some valuable items as well as everyday items such as her bag, purse, and glasses, along with her beloved dog, Coco. The full details of what happened that night have never been released, but according to the Charlie Project, Christina left her friend's house at around 1:45 a.m. after becoming upset. It is unknown whether the two had an actual disagreement or whether Christina's paranoia and altered mental state took over. According to the friend, Christina jumped into her silver two-door Dodge Ram 1500 pickup and drove away into the night. Her friend hoped that Christina would return after taking a short drive to clear her head, but as the sun rose, there was no sign of Christina. That same night, 46 miles away on Highway 247 near Boddick Road in Johnson Valley, California, the California Highway Patrol found some of Christina's personal items scattered on the side of the highway. It wasn't until the next morning that her car was found abandoned a further 37 miles away near Valley View Road and 29 Palms Highway. Investigators who discovered the car noted that it was covered in dents and scrapes, almost as if it had been driven through rocky terrain. Christina's family held their collective breath as the news of the discovery of her car was relayed to them, but as the investigators went through the details, they realized that there was still no sign of Christina. Their concern grew as the hours passed, knowing that she was in an altered state of mind with no car, no wallet, no ID, and no glasses, as she had left all these items behind at her friend's house the night before. Also, on November 1st, 2015, Christina's beloved dog, Coco, was found wandering in Apple Valley on the side of Highway 18. A kind stranger took Coco in and put up flyers and posters appealing for the owner to come forward. Christina's family were alerted to this and chose for Coco to remain in the woman's care while they searched for Christina. As the days went on, the search for Christina continued, with local police forces and volunteers turning out in droves to look for her, but sadly, no sign of her was to be found. It wasn't until 11 days later that a horrific discovery was made near Bear Valley Road in Apple Valley. The area is described as being a dirt road, and the location of the discovery only added to the fears of the investigators and Christina's family. On the side of this dirt road, a passerby noticed a discarded backpack, and upon opening it, they found medication, money, and photographs that all belonged to Christina. This discovery was called in to the Apple Valley PD, who used canines and helicopters to search the area, but sadly, no other clues were to be found. Cheryl, Christina's mother, believes that her daughter may be in Yucca Valley or the surrounding area and is homeless or living a transient lifestyle. In a Facebook post to the page Help Find Christina Bastion in July 2018, Cheryl wrote, "A couple of months ago, a young, well-kept homeless man identified Christina by name from a picture. He was in front of the Walmart in Yucca Valley, California. I believe she is there. If you see her, please snap a picture and send it to me. I miss her more than words can express." According to other posts made on this page, Cheryl has received several emails and tips from people in California and beyond who believe that they have seen Christina panhandling and begging for change. Christina Bastion was last seen on November 1st, 2015 in Apple Valley, California. She is described as a white female with red hair, brown eyes, 5 foot 6 inches tall, and weighs about 170 pounds. Christina's ears and cartilage are pierced. She has a scar on her thumb, a scar on her right eyebrow, and a tattoo of a cherry blossom with Chinese writing on her left ankle and foot. She also needs glasses to see, however, these were left behind at the time of her disappearance. Cheryl told the media that without her glasses, Christina can only see about 6 inches in front of her, and all she had with her at the time of her disappearance was the pair of contacts she was wearing. Christina was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and requires medication for her condition. However, she had stopped taking these months before she disappeared, apparently with her doctor's permission, according to her. Anyone with any information is asked to contact the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department at 909-387-3690 or the Apple Valley PD at 760-240-7400. Kaya Taylor. 28-year-old Kaya Taylor has been described by friends and family as a lively, warm, and affectionate person who would go out of her way to help those in need. At the time of her disappearance, Kaya was living in Plant City, Florida with her boyfriend, although some reports state that she was couch surfing and staying with friends. Kaya's family have created the Facebook page Finding Kaya in an attempt to gather as much information as possible and spread the word about her disappearance. Her family has also been very vocal about the lack of progress made in her case. In August of 2020, her family made a post to the Facebook page laying out the facts of Kaya's case and asking anyone with information to contact the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. Kaya Taylor was last seen at around 4 p.m. on February 6, 2020, dropping her boyfriend off at his friend's house located off Cowart and Trapnell Road in Plant City, Florida. According to her boyfriend, his friend, and his friend's father, they all saw Kaya dropping off her boyfriend before leaving to make her way to Lakeland, where she was due to stay with a friend. Unfortunately, Kaya had never arrived at her friend's house in Lakeland, and this friend informed her boyfriend that she had never shown up days later. Just 3 hours after Kaya was last seen, her car was discovered abandoned on the railway tracks on Trapnell Road. Kaya's family has stated that this railway was out of use and maintenance works were being carried out on the tracks. A concerned citizen noticed the car and called the police to alert them to the situation and get it moved. Plant City Police Department arrived at the scene and found that Kaya's car was still running, with the windows open, facing northbound, and that her phone was on the floor of the vehicle. Somewhat oddly, instead of running her plates, the officer who attended the scene got into Kaya's car and moved it to the side of the railway tracks. For another 3 days, Kaya's car sat at the edge of these tracks until her boyfriend's mother saw it sitting there. She went over to her son's house to let him know what was going on, and he told his mother that Kaya was supposed to be in Lakeland, so he couldn't understand why her car had been abandoned where it was. During the worst, Kaya's boyfriend called a friend in Lakeland who confirmed that she'd never arrived. After this, Kaya's boyfriend called her mother to let her know that her daughter hadn't been seen since February 6 and that her car had been abandoned. After being notified that her daughter had gone missing, Kaya's mother went to collect her car that had been left at the side of the railroad tracks. Inside the car, she found Kaya's phone and wallet. This sent alarm bells ringing, and Kaya's mother called the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office to report her daughter missing. 4 days after she was last seen, Kaya Taylor was officially listed as a missing person, and an investigation was opened. In the days following Kaya's disappearance, friends, family, and members of the local community gathered to help canvass the area and aid the police in their search for her. The police used scent dogs, helicopters, as well as officers on the ground, all combing through the area looking for Kaya. A forensic examination was conducted on Kaya's car, however, this yielded no results. Kaya's family remained strong, canvassing the area, putting up flyers, and talking to residents who may have seen something. They also held a vigil to help bring awareness to Kaya's disappearance, but despite the media coverage and attention, no one came forward with any information. The first clue didn't come until February 26, 2020, 20 days after Kaya had last been seen. According to the Facebook post made by Kaya's family, 20 days after Kaya's disappearance on February 26, her shoes were found located not too far from her car, next to a light pole that had her picture on it attached to a missing persons flyer. Family, friends, and police officers searched this area prior, and the shoes were not there. It's as if someone placed them there. Another puzzling clue that was uncovered during the investigation was Kaya's last text to her boyfriend, which read, "So you are going to send your white supremacist friends to take care of me?" A post written for the Bear Press mentioned that Kaya is biracial and that her boyfriend's social media was filled with posts of the Confederate flag and other racist propaganda. Kaya's mother also confirmed to People.com that Kaya had recently fallen in with a bad crowd and had possibly been experimenting with drugs. Since Kaya's shoes were discovered in February 2020, her case has gone cold, despite the best efforts of her family to keep her name in the media. Kaya Taylor remains missing, and her family are offering a $10,000 reward for any information that leads to her whereabouts. We'd also like to mention that Kaya's boyfriend has not been named publicly, and the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office have stated that he is not a suspect in Kaya's disappearance. Kaya Taylor was last seen on February 6, 2020, and is described as a biracial African-American white mix. Female, 5 foot 6 inches tall and 170 pounds, with auburn red hair and brown eyes. Kaya has multiple tattoos, an infinity symbol on her left upper chest, 2 X's with a rose on the back of her shoulder, a rose on the inside of her forearm, a sun on her upper right thigh, and a ladybird on her left calf. She was last seen wearing a blue, gray, red, and white striped short-sleeved mini dress, tan knee-high boots, and possibly a pink cardigan. Anyone with any information is urged to please contact the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office at 813-247-8200. We have Jake Latios. 22-year-old Jake Latios was last seen on the Interstate 10 bridge over the Mississippi River in Baton Rouge on August 29, 2014 at around 2 a.m. A passerby told investigators they had spoke to Jake at around 2 a.m. as he was sitting next to his pickup truck on the bridge. Jake informed the stranger that he was on his way to West Baton Rouge, but sadly, Jake never made it there. A few hours later, the Baton Rouge Police Department received a bizarre call that kick-started the search for Jake. In the early morning hours of August 29, 2014, the Baton Rouge Police Department were called to the Interstate 10 bridge when an anonymous caller reported seeing a person jump from the bridge into the waters below. The person calling did not want to give their identity, and it appears they were not at the scene when the police arrived. The Baton Rouge police took this call very seriously and dispatched officers to the scene. However, when they arrived, they couldn't find anything. They looked into the water below, but saw no sign of anyone having jumped. A dive team was called to the area to recover any remains or rescue the person, but again, the dive team found nothing. What the Baton Rouge Police Department did find was Jake's pickup truck, still running, abandoned on the side of the road. Inside the vehicle were Jake's phone, cigarettes, and a trolling motor that he had just purchased, but his wallet and crutches that he was using at the time were nowhere to be found. At the time of his disappearance, Jake had a broken foot and right hand and was wearing an orthopedic boot as well as using crutches to get around. His crutches weren't recovered from the bridge nor the water, leaving authorities with more questions than answers. Jake's mother, Tina Leclerc, told NBC if he jumped off the bridge, his crutches would have been found. They would have been left in his room by his truck on the bridge, floating in the water. Jake's case only became more bizarre when his mother, Tina, visited his apartment after the Baton Rouge Police Department contacted her to let her know that his truck had been found abandoned on the side of the bridge. She told NBC, "When I got there, it automatically seemed suspicious. The window was punched out. There were holes in the wall. His personal items were missing, including his TV set. Just everything was a mess." Several years have passed since Jake disappeared, and sadly, the Baton Rouge Police Department are still no closer to solving his case. According to a Facebook post made to the Help Find Missing Jake Allen Latios page in August 2021, his crutches were located much later at an undisclosed time and location, but no further information has been provided about this fact. His mother, Tina, believes that Jake met with foul play and that someone staged it to look like he took his own life. Tina said she is ready for whatever outcome and just wants to know the truth of what happened to her son. 22-year-old Jake Latios was last seen on August 29, 2014, on the Interstate 10 bridge in Baton Rouge. He is described as a white male with brown hair, brown eyes, stands approximately 5 foot 9 inches tall, and weighs between 130 and 150 pounds. Jake has a cross-shaped scar on his left wrist, and at the time of his disappearance, he had a broken foot, a broken right hand, and was using an orthopedic boot and crutches. Anyone with any information is urged to please contact the Baton Rouge Police Department at 225-389-4617. Audrey Mae Herron. 31-year-old Audrey Mae Herron was a devoted mother of three and a nurse living in Catskill, New York at the time of her disappearance. When Audrey was just 22, she gave birth to her first child, Sonsia, and with the help of her parents, continued her studies and eventually became a full-time nurse at a nearby nursing home. Audrey later went on to marry Jeff Herron, and the couple had two more children, Katie and Quinn. The blended family quickly meshed together, with Sonsia telling True Crime Daily, "Even though I wasn't his child, he still considered me his daughter, and I called him Dad." Life for the Herrons was going smoothly. 2002, Sonsia was 10 years old, and a few days before Labor Day weekend, she had just returned to her Catskill home from Florida, where she had spent the last month with her grandmother, Shirley, which was Audrey's mother. Shirley revealed that Audrey had just been given a raise at work and was excited to see her daughter after she'd been away for so long. Audrey's shifts are working until 11 p.m. at night, and Shirley agreed that this would be far too late for her to pick Sonsia from her home. Sonsia stayed the night at her grandmother's house, waiting eagerly for her mother to come and pick her up on the morning of August 30th, 2002. But sadly, that knock at the door and the familiar shout of Sonsia's name never came. Shirley told Dateline, "I called Audrey and she said she had a doctor's appointment the next morning, but she would pick Sonsia up after that." Shirley was surprised when the phone rang at 6 a.m. the next morning and she heard Jeff on the other end of the phone, asking if she had seen Audrey. She told NBC, "Jeff called and asked if Audrey was at my house. It would not have been unusual for her to stay over with me, but normally she would have called him to let him know. I said she wasn't here, but I didn't think anything of it, so I dozed back off." Shirley's slumber was interrupted an hour later by another phone call from Jeff. This time he sounded more panicked. He told Shirley that Audrey hadn't returned home from work the previous evening. According to Shirley, she relayed this information to a family member who used to work in law enforcement, who in turn reported Audrey as missing. A wide-scale search began, and the local police, along with Audrey's family, began canvassing the area. During their investigation, the New York State Police came across CCTV footage that confirmed Audrey left work on the evening of August 29, 2002, in her black 1999 Jeep Grand Cherokee. New York State Police Detective Kaminsky said, "We only have one grainy video from Cumberland Farms in which it appears that Audrey's vehicle does leave her place of employment and basically turn left going west on County Route 23B. That's the last of any kind of technology we had. We can't confirm it's the vehicle because of the quality of the video, but it appears to be. The quality of the video was very poor and very grainy, but it does appear to leave at the time she would have ended work." Armed with this new piece of information, investigators began searching bodies of water and any other areas that Audrey may have ended up, but came up with nothing. There was no activity on her phone, credit, or debit cards since August 29, 2002, and the investigation quickly went cold. Tips and leads have been followed to their end, and almost 20 years later, we are still asking the question, where is Audrey Herron? Jeff, Audrey's husband, has been described as uncooperative by the New York State Police. He has voluntarily undergone a polygraph test, and his property has been searched extensively. Nothing was found in connection with Audrey's disappearance. The New York State Police have said that Jeff is not considered a suspect but that they are considering her case a homicide rather than a missing person case. Audrey was last seen leaving her workplace on August 29, 2002, in her black 1994 Jeep Grand Cherokee, New York license plate X233UV. Audrey is described as a white female with dark blonde to light brown hair, hazel eyes. She stands 5 foot tall and weighs 105 pounds. Audrey has a scar on her right thumb and a mole on the inside of her right knee. She was last seen wearing a blue turtleneck, dark green medical scrubs, a yellow gold necklace with a pendant that says "Number 1 Mom," and a watch with a white leather band and a white metal face. Anyone with any information is asked to please contact the New York State Police at 518-622-8600. Maryland.